thanks for your patience. These there are little connector because we live stream through YouTube. There's a buffering time, so we just need to make sure that the buffer is completed before we actually start, or else it gets cut off at the beginning of the meeting. So. Thank you very much. I'm going to call to order the November 24th Special Council meeting at 6 p.m. As we call the meeting to order, we'd just like to acknowledge that we gather in the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish people. And specifically, we recognize the Lekwungen people known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and their historic connections to these lands continue to this day. We have a simple agenda in front of us. Can I have a motion to approve that agenda? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? I don't have any remarks. I'll keep those for the 7 p.m. meeting. So moving first to the first of the two special meeting matters. As noted in the reports, neither of the two meetings matters here in front of us are subject to public input, as they are compliant with the OCP and therefore not a rezoning that would trigger a public hearing. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Green, our Deputy Director of Community Building and Planning.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. The District has received a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone the property located at 310 King George Terrace from the residential R4 zone to a new site-specific comprehensive development zone, along with a development permit application. The purpose of these applications is to facilitate the subdivision of the property into 4 Burland strata lots, each with a new single-family dwelling containing a secondary suite. The zoning amendment application was reviewed by the Advisory Planning Commission on October the 15th of this year, and the APC recommended approval of the application. The development permit was reviewed by the Advisory Design Panel on October the 21st of this year, and the ADP also recommended approval, but with consideration of accessible washrooms in the secondary suites on the ground floor. The applicant has since amended the layout of Unit 1 to incorporate an accessible washroom in that Unit 1 suite. Staff are recommending that the zoning amendment application be approved subject to the payment of the CSE contribution. And once this CSE has been paid, staff would present the bylaw for adoption, as well as the DP for Council's consideration of approval. The applicant is here to answer any questions that Council may have on the application. I'm suffering, sorry.
I wasn't sure if the cough was the definitive statement or if that was something more to come. Thank you, Mr. Green. We have the applicants here for this. In this process, we haven't in the past traditionally had much of a presentation, but we probably will have some questions. So if the applicant wants to come forward, we'll probably have some questions that you're best prepared to answer. I'm going to turn to my members of council here, and Mr. Collins, if you wish to introduce yourself, if you want to say a few words at the beginning, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll get straight to the questions.
Yeah, I'm Russ Collins from Zebra Design. I didn't prepare a presentation because I think we had lots of information already there, but I did write a short little letter to accompany the submission, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you very much for that. Questions, members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Watson, and then Braithwaite.
Thank you, and this is to Mr. Collins. Thank you for coming tonight, and I do want to follow up on the recommendation that came out of the Advisory Design Panel. We were there together, and I know you heard directly the discussion around the notion of using this as an opportunity to create some more fully accessible housing because the secondary suites were all at grade, and you've come back with a proposal to modify one washroom, which is lovely. And I just wondered if you could explain to us what would have prevented you doing more than one suite when you went back to look at the layout?
Thank you, Councillor Watson. I'll give that over to Mr. Collins.
I think what happened is I believe we made the suite in Unit 1, right? Is that correct? Yeah. That, that unit is slightly different in its layout and has more room in the washroom on the lower level that we could actually make it accessible, and that's why we did it in that unit. The other washrooms are quite small, and we don't really have the room. Otherwise, we would have too, but we'd end up making the bedroom way too small. So we thought, let's at least do one accessible unit.
Could I follow up? Were there any trade-offs in terms of the actual space configuration or other features in the suite that would have allowed that? I just ask because I know that to have four suites like this that are at grade, it is an unusual and relished opportunity if we can do more. So I just want to push that a little bit and see if there is any other alternatives that would, even though the existing plan, the bathrooms were small, is there any trading spaces between other features in the suites?
It's difficult. I mean, we did look at it, and honestly, we tried, but it would compromise the suites too much, we felt. So we thought if we want to keep them to one-bedroom suites, if we eliminate the bedroom, for instance, and just have an open space and make it more of a studio types unit, then we could do it. I'd have to talk to the owner to see if he's willing to try that, but we just felt to keep them as one-bedroom units, it was better to just do the one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Braithwaite and Green.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Collins, for being here to answer questions. I have a few in regards to that. This is a big change in densification from 1 unit to 8 units, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the compatibility with the surrounding R4, R3 neighborhood character and how this would fit in.
Well, we felt that how this worked and why it works so well is because we're keeping it single family. We're not putting in townhouses. We're not putting in a big block of a building. We're putting in 4 separate detached units. They also nestle themselves quite well into the rock because there's a huge, tall amount of rise in the back. So the buildings that are accessed up off of Denison these don't affect them at all. There's no shadowing, no privacy issues. So we just felt it was a really nice way to accommodate more density, and we thought, why not put a suite in? Because it's just, we need more rentals in Oak Bay, so it was just, for us, it was an obvious thing to do.
Thank you for that, and yeah, I agree that it's great to have suites. And you talk about a bit about the rock bluff. So your drawings don't actually show it within the package. They don't show the massing in relationship to the significant rock bluff that's there. When will we actually see an accurate elevation drawing that shows that in its full context?
When you say that, I'm not quite sure I can't find an angle to take a rendering. We were going to do a rendering to try and show that, but it's almost like you'd have to go inside the unit and look out the window to get an idea how it looks. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what you're asking. Like, how does it affect the stuff below us, do you mean?
Yeah, and above as well, I think.
Well, the above is like way above. So we could do a cross-section through that and show you that it's, up in the air and it's not going to be affected for sure. That would be easy to do. Yeah.
Thank you. And then you did talk about that neither in your package that neither neighbor you met with was opposed. So I'm wondering how many neighbors you actually contacted in and around that area, because it's very congested. There's a lot of different lots that touch that lot.
Yeah, let me just see here. So if you look at this this map we went to 306, 296, 290, 280, 260, 250, and 244 King George Terrace, and dropped off notification. I left a letter, phone number, and said we'd be happy to come back or come to my office or a phone call, whatever works for you when it's convenient. And 2 people took us up on that. Nobody else contacted us.
And then it's a very odd little entrance into that lot. So I'm wondering how you've addressed traffic safety on that double blind corner, and also about emergency services on how they access within there as well.
We've been in contact with the fire department. They've approved the actual layout that we have for our driveway. I found it quite, years ago I lived on King George Terrace just at 285, like just around the corner, and getting onto that portion was deadly most of the time. But I found at 310, it seems, because I've been there quite a few times, and I parked and gotten back in my vehicle and driven away, and it's been quite easy. You actually can see quite well from there. And because you have that extra bit of room, like it's not like you're right on the road, you actually get room you can actually turn around and come facing out and not be backing onto King George Terrace, which is great.
Thank you. I have just a few more questions. Thanks. And going back to the rock massing, how much blasting and excavation and grading is going to be required for that driveway and the 4 new homes, and what alternate methods perhaps have you explored to reduce the impacts?
Yeah, the driveway itself I don't think is going to require much blasting, if any. It's quite level through the bottom part of the lot. It's going to be, as we get further back on the site where the suites are going to go in, that's probably where the blasting is going to happen. And I would assume that we would use the best form of blasting that is practical. So I'm not an expert in blasting, sorry, but
Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you. And then on the tree loss, you said that the project is going to meet and exceed the canopy coverage, yet we're going to lose 6 protected trees. And it's a very limited site on how you can actually add trees, I think, in there. So can you maybe touch on that, on how the expectation is to increase that canopy coverage?
yeah, we had the landscape plan was done by our landscape designer, and so again, I'm not a landscape expert, but the site is park-like at the moment. There's a woman one of the women that phoned me and contacted me about the project lives right below it. And she actually does all the gardening and designed the garden that's there now. And it's, in the summertime, it's phenomenal what she's done. So there's obviously ways to plant and get trees to grow and all that on the property. So I'm assuming it should be able, like what our landscape designers come up with should be quite feasible.
And then there was something that came to us, that was the 2003 access agreement. I'm not sure if you've seen that or not. And it talked about accessing neighboring properties, the access rights to the neighboring properties. And I'm wondering if you've read that, or if you've seen it, and if you can confirm that there's no conflict with the neighboring properties on access rights.
No, I don't know anything about what you're talking about, sorry.
Mr. Bowl, are you familiar with that little covenant piece? Is it still in place, or did it disappear with the sale of the land? Or you can just share that with us.
Thank you.
You've got the faulty one. You may have to just grab a different microphone.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we looked into the document from 2004. It specifically allowed for a gate on the municipal land to be located, but had a clear time ending of only 1 year at a time, and that gate is no longer there. So, so we assume that all has been. That's now in the past. There's no current agreement on the road right of way, and there is one covenant on the title itself, but that's a 1913 covenant. Actually, I believe Mr. Green informed me today that that had been addressed by the applicant.
Councillor Braithwaite?
I think that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, great. I have Councillor Green.
Thank you.
Patterson.
Thank you, but my question on blasting was answered. Thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through to the applicant. I'm just wondering if Mr. Collins could speak about, as we are creating secondary suites, the thought that always comes to mind is what access or provision is being made for the occupants of secondary suites to have outdoor space available to them.
Over to you, Mr. Collins.
At the side of the building, we push the stairwells that are going to go up to the door, the front door, as far away as we possibly can, so that we can provide a bit of space between the building and the staircase that goes up to the main front entry. They're not big spaces, but they're big enough for a couple chairs and a table out there, and you still have to go by them to get to the door. But that was our plan, is to do a little bit of a patio right there. And we're also providing extra parking, by the way, for the suites too. We've got a garage parking stall, and then under that deck, we actually have room for another full car to park there if they need parking.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff or the consultant. My first question was just with regards to existing trees. It appeared that there might be one significant tree on the neighboring property that may or may not be impacted, just looking at the landscape plan, if I'm reading that correctly with the pink dot. And I just wondered, what is our policy and what typically happens when the development on one site impacts trees on a neighboring property due to construction? Or am I not understanding that moment in the site plan? If you could clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Collins?
Yeah, our intention is to try to save, are you talking about the tree that's up here at the front? That one? Yeah, our intention is to save that tree. I actually, this is one of the things that happened with the fire department. They wanted us to pave right to the fence, and we didn't want to do that. And the way we got around it is we're sprinkling the houses so that we don't have to get the truck as far up the driveway as that they would want it if they didn't have sprinkling. So yeah, our intention is to try and save that tree. There's another tree that's in the lady that looks after the property. There's also one very close to the lot line there too. We want to try and save it. And there's also one other one that you can see further up that we want to save on the property. So we're trying to save I know it looks bad when you see all these trees getting taken out, but we have really tried to save as many as we can.
Thank you. My next question, through you, Mayor, to the applicant. I just wondered if the design team considered the east side of Unit 1 as having a more articulated elevation, being sort of the main entry point of the development, or is the plan that the landscaping, in a sense, sort of takes on that role at the side of the development to provide more interest?
It's an unfortunate situation because of the shape of the lot that we ended up having to pull the garage out in front, and it wasn't, if we had it the other way around, we'd prefer it because it sort of what opens it up to the street better, but we just couldn't come up with a way to make that work. It just doesn't fit. So we wanted to do really good landscaping out in front to kind of make up for the fact that the house actually sort of turns its back on the street, which is, I understand what you're saying, but we are planning a lot of extra landscaping at the front to make up for that.
Thank you. And then my last question through you, Mayor, and this may be more for staff. I just wanted to know, I appreciate the compactness of the site design, and I'm assuming that the cul-de-sac will probably provide a lot of room for visitor parking, but I just wanted to know, did staff have any concerns with not having the on-site visitor parking and just allowing for the cul-de-sac to provide for that? Thank you.
Green?
Obviously, the district's parking facilities spiral. When a single-family dwelling has a secondary suite, the parking ratio is 0.5 per unit. Obviously, they exceed that, as outlined by Mr. Collins there, in terms of each unit would have, each secondary suite would have a stall, and as well as each unit would have a garage as well. Obviously, we haven't had any concerns from both our engineering department, or initially there were concerns from engineering department and the fire department, and those issues have now been resolved by the applicant. Whether there would be allowed to be parking on that driveway may come down to at the subdivision stage as to whether there needs to be no parking on that access driveway to still allow emergency vehicle access into that site, but that may be an issue for the approving officer and as well as the fire department at time of subdivision stage.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions. I just have a couple, and in attachment A in our report that we have, which is the lays out the graph on the site data and the 4 lots. Just for my clarification, there's a table there which shows trees removed as trees to be removed as 0 across the board for the 4 lots. But obviously, there's quite a few trees shown. Can you actually, just for my clarification, how many, like what type of each tree are being removed?
Sorry, I'm struggling to hear what you quite.
Oh, my apologies. So
Sorry.
there's a Schedule A within the report, which is it's the black and white diagram. You can see that?
Yeah.
It's got the diagram, which seems to appear to show a number of trees with X's through them that are being removed as part of the development, but in the table, it just shows 0, 0, 0, 0 for.
Asked the exact same question today, and I have no idea why that was done like that, and it's even highlighted. And I said, like, what exactly does that mean? He can't remember. Lewis in my office, he could not remember what and why he did that, and yeah, it was bizarre when I looked at it. I thought, what are you? There's trees coming out. There's no way it could be 0. But why is it on here like that? I'm sorry, I can't answer the question.
Okay, no, I appreciate. Do you have a sense of the total number of trees that of either protected trees or significant trees that are being removed in total?
6? Yeah, 6.
6. Okay. And then it was also just a little difficult to get a clear understanding of. I appreciate you going and reaching out to the neighbors. It's not clear what the impact on the neighbor views are, and probably the only really one that was kind of hard to read was the 244, which sort of sits, in the panhandle off of it sort of overlooks a little bit the lot. So it would be immediately adjacent to lot 4, I guess, on that diagram. And it's hard to see, hard to tell sort of from the layout what the impact, how tall this building is relative to the adjacent building. Would it sort of look over into their veranda there? Would it be below that? Can you just share a little bit about what the relative impact or scale is to the adjoining building?
Yeah, I don't feel like we have a huge amount of impact because we do have a decent setback on that side, and our building's facing towards 260, not towards 244. Mm-hmm. So like it's just a side of. I mean, our entrance is on that side, but other than that, there's not a lot of windows facing that side. We're trying to look out across the back of 260 and 306 is really the ones that we would be looking at. And again, we're still set pretty far back from them, so we're not like on top of them. So I think there's good separation.
Do you have a sense of like the top of unit 4, like appreciate a step down towards that side of the lot,
Yep.
so it's not at its peak height. Even like so with that lower roof, do we have a sense of is that sort of equivalent to their sort of first floor? Because it kind of slopes there.
Yeah,
but
I don't 100% know the answer to that question. I mean, it's something I could definitely figure out and have.
Yeah, it's just good to understand what the sort of, it'd be helpful just to get a clear understanding of what impact it has on the neighbors. Because I think that's essentially the ask here is to allow more density and allow some more housing forms while minimizing the amount of impact. And I do appreciate there's some setbacks and some plantings, and there's a very large hedge currently in place there, which I assume is staying on that side of the property.
It's hard to, let me just look at my landscape plan here.
I think it might actually be on the neighboring property, but look at the landscape plan. It shows a hedge, although.
Yeah, if it's on the landscape plan, I can't see it here, but I'm not sure, to be honest. It's been so long since I've looked at this that these are questions I could have answered months ago, but I can't remember at this moment. Yeah, not sure what she's doing with the hedge.
Okay. Yeah, it's not too clear what those hedges are, or if the tall existing hedge is going to remain. So, okay. Those are my questions at this point. I'm not sure I'm entirely clearer now, but I appreciate that. They're detailed questions that probably should have submitted ahead of time, so you could have had a chance to
Actually,
look at them.
now I can see it better, actually, now that I look at this plan. The hedge is so big and so far into the property that we're going to lose the hedge for sure. I can just tell where the stairs go. That hedge is going to have to come out for sure. I can see it here now.
So that hedge is a shared hedge on the property?
No, it's fully on this property.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to the survey, I can see it where it says hedge, and you can see that the property lines beyond it for sure.
Okay. So then I guess one follow-up, thank you for that, is a follow-up question, because so my only way of trying to assess the impact was to go and look at, there was a real estate photos from that site from a previous sale, and you could look around, and that hedge is it's quite dominant on that side of the
Yeah.
building. It provides a lot of privacy. So is there any sort of willingness or interest in, or possibility of providing something that provides a bit of a screen there? Because I
Oh,
think
yeah,
there's
absolutely, yeah,
thank you.
definitely.
Back to this table then. Any other questions for the applicant or for staff? All right, we have options in front of us here in terms of consideration for 310 King George Terrace. We'll seek some direction from staff. Usually at this point, we're either sending it back for some direction and work, or a motion to put the something on the floor. We can then debate that. Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Yes, I would begin by moving the staff recommendations, and then I want to amend sorry, no, maybe I'll start with the amendments to the project. I would like to, well, should I introduce the zoning bylaw amendments?
Well, why don't you, before we get to motions
Yeah, okay.
then, why don't you
Okay.
just ask staff about, if you have concerns or things you would like to see addressed, maybe they can give us some direction as to how that's best handled.
Thank you. And this is to staff. I think I would like to ask at least the applicant to consider to go back and look at taking a second look at creating at least one more accessible bathroom, so that we have 2 accessible suites instead of just one. And if there is a possibility that that changes it from a 1-bedroom to a studio, then perhaps, I'm not suggesting it mandatory, but just asking if that could be done as further work and consideration, not a requirement.
Is that the only change that you were going to ask for?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So procedurally, from a process here, we have bylaws being suggested for first and second reading. So my take here would be probably not that it would be first and second. Well, it's an interesting question. Would they affect the bylaw? Or because the bylaw essentially sets out the zoning requirements with the plans attached. So yeah, procedurally here, would those proceed as is, and with the direction to, before we do final reading or adoption or third reading, wherever that is. Yeah, I'll leave it to you, staff. If that's the scale of the suggestion, where would you see that recommendation coming?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess council could have 2 options. One, it could seek a covenant from the applicant to secure that second unit to be have a second accessible washroom, or it could be essentially also tasked with the applicant to amend the development permit drawings to incorporate that second accessible washroom into one of the units, if that is feasible from the applicant's perspective. So that is also an option. Obviously, following the ADP meeting, the applicant did amend the DP drawings to incorporate that one accessible washroom rather than going down the covenant route. And so that's probably the 2 options, is the covenant route to secure it, or seeking an amendment to the development permit that would be brought back to council probably at the time of adoption of the bylaw, so that council could see that that washroom has been incorporated to DP before adopting the bylaw.
Procedurally, do first and second reading, and then give a direction to ask for the drawings to be amended
Yes,
on
correct.
return.
Yeah, the development permit drawings to be amended to incorporate a second accessible washroom.
Okay, and I'm not sure that's going to have support from this table. I just procedurally want to make sure I'm clear on the process. So why don't we do that? If you wish to make the move, so you have to read it aloud, the motion first and second reading.
Yes, I move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025, be read a first and second time.
So it's moved and seconded. And so with this, with the recommendation for a motion to include a second accessible washroom prior to returning for third reading be appropriate, or what would be the actual language here? I'm might turn to either Ms. Anderson or Mr. Green. I'm not sure which is the best. Mr. Green?
I was just prior to consideration of adoption, so that then we could bring forward the development permit for council's consideration at that meeting where council may consider adoption of the bylaw.
Okay, so we would, I think, so the amendment here would be that staff, yeah, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The motion before you is for the bylaw, so if council wishes to vote on first and second reading and then proceed to third reading, and then following third reading, entertain motions for altering the building design guidelines, or building, yeah, that.
Development permit, yeah. Yeah, a building permit. Thank you. So procedurally here, I think, just to make sure we're all very clear, if the overall application is seen to have merit, then the motion would be to move this forward. If not, then the motion would be to move against. I won't take the motions for those kind of specifics. We'll take them. There's a recommendation here that staff director work with the applicant on covenant for charge title, and that would be probably an additional motion at that point I'll treat separately for that additional change to the building permit. So really we're looking at here first and second reading right now. I would take third reading and then those directions. And I really, if that was important to people and it didn't pass, or people didn't want it and it did pass, that would be your consideration upon adoption then as to whether it met the full criteria. Okay. So right now we have first and second reading of the bylaw. Is there any other discussion? This is go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks so much, Mayor. And I just wanted to acknowledge the work that staff and you, Mr. Collins, have done to put this file together. But I do continue to have some major concerns about the scale of this development that's being proposed. What's being asked for here is basically 8 dwellings on a really steep, topographically challenged lot with a double-blind driveway access. I would have really liked to have seen a 2-lot R5 subdivision here. I think that, for me, that would have been a more comfortable ask. We have no traffic safety and assessment here. The contextual massing that shows the homes against the rock bluff, we don't have that. And I know you spoke to that a little bit. But for me, the fundamental question is really whether this intensity is appropriate for this site. And at this point, I don't believe it is. The combination of the density, the topography, the safety, and the parking pressure, I think that this will add to that area, which does have a lot of parking pressure right now, just leaves a few too many gaps for me. I'd love to see, as I said, either a 2 or 3 unit development here, but 4, I think, is just pushing it a little bit too much. So for those reasons, I'm sorry that I'm not in a position to support this proposal as it's presented, but if it doesn't go through, I hope it comes back with some rendition of either 3 or a 2-lot subdivision. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Other speakers on the motion in front of us? Go ahead, Councillor Smart, then Watson. Did I see that?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in favor of the motion. I just appreciate the innovative solution here. I think it's going to be a really positive addition to this neighborhood fabric, and just really taking advantage of a place where you could really create a little new community where the current community really needs a change. So I guess speaking from that cultural perspective and really just immediately being able to imagine the interaction between these neighbors due to the closely knit massing, I think it'll be a really positive addition to the area.
So Watson?
Thank you. I will also be voting in favor of this going forward. I think that it presents as a beautiful little addition to some beautifully articulated, fairly small-scale housing. The access is actually fairly straightforward. I don't see those. I don't anticipate dangers in exiting or entering at all. At that particular juncture along King George Terrace, King George Terrace, and I think that in a way this is a really secluded little gem. It's going to be almost invisible to its neighbors above, maybe completely invisible to its neighbors above, and just a wonderful way to tuck some new homes into this part of Oak Bay. So thank you.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Of course, I seconded it, so I do support what was put forward. While I also appreciate Councillor Watson's comments on accessibility, I know that was something that the APC asked about also, but the lot in itself does not rate highly, I don't think, about accessibility. It's a little bit of a steep terrain, but I don't have the same concerns about the entrance to the driveway because I think it is fairly significant. What I did like about this application is that it does provide a little bit, at least a little bit of outdoor space for the secondary suites, should they be leased out to third-party tenants. And so for that reason, I think that it's a bit of a steep climb, I admit, to get to the top floor where most of the living will be done. But nevertheless, I think that it's a good use of the geographic location of the lot and does provide a unique source of housing in that area. So I do support what is before us.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to staff and to the applicant. I will be supporting the application. One of the reasons I feel that this is a unique opportunity is it redefines a property with an unfortunate history. And so I think this is an opportunity to reimagine the property and reimagine livability there as well. I do support Councillor Watson's push for more accessibility. I know that technically, unless age-friendly people live in the suite, you know, these are a challenge because everything is upstairs. However, the suites are also age-friendly because they are ground level, which I think is very good. So I will support the application.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments around the table. I do just want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this. I do think there's nothing's ever perfect. I think the question around parking is an important one. It is a very difficult area. Really, parking has to be provided on site. So I think it strains. I do, at the end of the day, look at this as 4 single-family homes in a place that, you know, I mean, yes, the suites are going to be there, and they may be used, like most suites, they come and go in use over time. But really, we're looking at 4 single-family homes, and that is not an unreasonable ask, especially given that is the thing. It's not really dissimilar from looking at a 4-plex on the lot, which is available as of right. And so I think this is, again, given the unique geographical location and situation with the lack of impact with the rock behind it, I'm reasonably supportive of this approach. And certainly, as always, really appreciate the thoughtful design, at least of the buildings. The articulation and the height variances and attention to detail is always appreciated on these things. I'll leave my comments there for now. Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion in front of us before I call the question? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? If Councillor Braithwaite opposed, that does carry. So then we read motion for third time. If you can read that aloud, Councillor Watson.
Yes, I'll move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025 be read a third time.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded. Thank you. We don't usually debate on third reading, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? Oh, sorry, Councillor Braithwaite opposed. My apologies, Councillor Braithwaite. I'm going to ask that we move the recommendation on the covenant piece, and then I'll go to the motion that you had arising, Councillor Watson. So I don't think we need to read that aloud. This is just to direct staff to work with the applicant on a covenant, etc. So can I have a mover and seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on that portion? All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. Okay. That carries. And then Councillor Watson, you wanted to raise that staff, however you wanted. You wanted to either direct inclusion of an additional accessibles.
Yes, it would be something that council directs staff to work with the applicant to identify a location in one of the, in either Unit 2, 3, or 4 for a fully accessible washroom.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. I think you've motivated, talked about it already, but if you wish to add anything else?
Yes, and I will, I'm honored to sit as the chair of our Accessibility Advisory Committee and also at the Advisory Design Panel. Accessibility does come up. It's often a topic of discussion, and we have 4 potential rental units here and real unmet need in this area, regardless of age, for any kinds of mobility, disability, or other issues. It spans all ages in life and a whole range of possible physical disabilities that could be accommodated if we provide this. And I think it's a really unique opportunity in this particular housing form because they are great, and that you could get into one of these suites on wheels or with a walker and then really be able to live in that place without difficulty. So I think the applicant's done really good work, but I'd like to push just a little bit further on this one. Thank you.
So moved and seconded. I'm going to just I'm just going to turn to the applicant just briefly because I know this has been looked at already, and I just, we have this ability to go and ask for this to be a change, but perhaps could you just speak in response to this, how if this is going to be, do you see it as a problem? Do you see that, I know you've already examined it, so it may not be,
I think
possible.
we will go back and see what we can do.
Okay.
Definitely. It's not a big ask, I don't think, for what we're asking for, so I'll talk to our client about it and we'll have a look and see if we can make it work.
Councillor Smart?
Yeah, thank you. Just to further motivate, yeah, I do see that there might still be a creative solution here, particularly with the laundry closet perhaps could be integrated into the kitchen. It's a bit more of a European style approach, but it seems to me that there might still be an opportunity here to provide this accessibility.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do support the approach because I think in listening to Mr. Collins talking about perhaps even a studio design, quite often studio design works out quite well also for accessibility. So I think that any exploration of this that could be done that might move that forward so that we get another unit would be really welcomed in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see other discussion. I'll just make my comment. I'll support the motion given the response from Mr. Collins. I do think of all the places that I appreciate the design is amenable to accessibility, but the location is not. It is not the kind of place that a person with mobility issues would be able to walk out of their house and walk easily anywhere on that street. It's a very steep and a bit rough and narrowed sidewalked area, so I think of all the places we're going to encourage accessibility places, that might not be it. It sort of necessitates a car at hand with no bus traffic or other things. So I'm happy to let the applicant go and work on it, but I do think if we're going to be sort of focusing on accessibility, we may also want to consider location as well as just the form factor of the building itself. So with that, I'll turn any other discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. We look forward to seeing that. And I believe that concludes this portion of the piece. Is there anything else, staff, that we need to cover? Very good. We have people trickling in for the 7 o'clock meeting. We'll move on to the section 4.2, which is the zoning bylaw amendment for 2125 Lansdowne Road. I know I don't see Ms. Cook here, so Mr. Green, are you taking over again? Okay, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone the property at 2125 Lansdowne Road from the residential R4 to the residential R5. The purpose of the zoning amendment application is to facilitate the subdivision of the property into 2 lots. At this stage, we do not know what is intended to be built on each lot, although the applicant has stated that they wish to retain the existing house on lot 1. The application was reviewed by the Advisory Planning Commission on October the 15th, and the Commission recommended approval of the application. Staff are recommending that the application be approved subject to a Section 219 covenant to secure the payment of the community amenity contribution, as well as requiring a development permit prior to issuance of a BP. The applicant is here to answer any questions that Council may have on the application.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the applicant for coming forward. We'll turn to questions. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to the applicant. I was just hoping you could elaborate a little bit on, in the process of deciding to come for this ask, was permeable paving looked at? Was a narrower driveway looked at? Was sloping the driveway to a rain garden looked at? And why did it sort of land just to ask for the extra coverage? Thank you.
Sure. You're not. Push the button. If you just state your name and municipality of residence for the record, and then answer the question.
My
please.
name is Joe Kalenda. I live in Saanich, and I'm the applicant's representative here tonight. Yeah, those questions are basically development permit questions as we see them, you know. Our objective here was to subdivide the lot and then to secure, sorry?
My apologies. I was on the wrong
Wrong
page of my
application?
notes.
No worries.
Yes,
Okay.
I apologize to everybody.
No, for 2125 Lansdowne, for the record, for, so go ahead, please, go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I think my first question is for staff, and then I'll move on to questions for the applicant. Just a reminder from staff, what's the maximum number of dwelling units the applicant could build on each lot with new provincial housing legislation? Just to remind everyone.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, under the district's zoning bylaw, all residential zones can, over 280 square metres, can accommodate up to 4 dwelling units.
Per
lot.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. How unusual, because to me this is quite a setback variance. So how unusual is the setback variance of this scale? So it's going from 7.6 meters to 1.6 meters. And will it impact like the livability on lot 2, the shadowing, the privacy, the usable yard space? And were you provided any alternative house retention layouts with less variances?
That was to staff or to the applicant? Okay, to staff.
Through your worship to Councillor Braithwaite, obviously the setback hasn't been created yet because that lot line would only be created should council approve the zoning amendment to create those 2 lots. And if the applicant also so chooses to retain the existing house, and therefore if those all fall into place, then the applicant would require a development variance permit to reduce that rear setback from 7.6 metres to 1.5 metres.
Thank you.
And obviously prior to that there would also, obviously following, if council were to approve the zoning, then the subdivision would be likely be approved, and therefore then there will be also a development permit would need to be obtained in relation to whatever happens on lot 2, as well as if there are any changes on lot 1 from the existing single-family dwelling.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And perhaps you can talk to me a little bit about what staff's rationale is for deferring the CAC to the building permit stage instead of establishing a specific amount now, or is that a possibility of doing something like that?
Mr. Green?
Obviously the applicant is willing to enter into a voluntary contribution, and why we've felt that it was better to have a covenant to require that or to request that is that ultimately we don't know what's going to be built on lot 2, and therefore it gives us flexibility in relation to council's CSE policy that has different rates depending on the type of dwelling unit that is proposed, and as well as in terms of the number of units. So we don't know if there's going to be 1 new unit or 4 new units on that lot 2, and therefore allow some flexibility down the road when we reach the development permit stage or building permit stage. What we know is being proposed to calculate that CSE contribution.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. How does this proposed subdivision compare to a typical R5 lots on the block and on adjacent streets, please?
Mr. Green, there mostly are 4 lots in this area. So perhaps if Mr. Green is familiar with other R5s in the areas, and maybe also compared to the R4s.
Yeah, obviously this area is predominantly R4. Obviously council did approve a rezoning from R4 to what was then a RD1 zone prior to the smooth legislation back in 2023. And then obviously in 2023 that zone was rezoned to R5. And so essentially along that block, there is already a site that is now zoned R5. Obviously, this is also quite a large lot. It's obviously the minimum lot size in the R4 is 948 square metres, and this lot is just over 1,300 square metres. So it is above average in relation to an R4 size lot.
Thank you. And then perhaps I'll move to the applicant now. Why was the decision made to retain the house rather than reposition it to avoid such a significant setback variance on the other lot? Thank you.
Good question. So this may or may not happen, but the owners, the applicants, they have a son, and the idea behind creating a new lot is to perhaps build a new house for their son. They're not guaranteeing that's exactly what they're going to do, but if they do that, then the idea is they stay in the house they're in, and the son or family gets to move into the new house.
Thank you. And then would the applicant be willing to reduce future density? So, for example, a maximum of 2 units per lot to address the neighbor concerns?
Well, I didn't hear any neighbor concerns over density. However, well, it's kind of interesting. When we started, I said to the applicant, okay, what do you want to do? And they said, well, I think I want to subdivide a lot and build a house for my kid. You know, I said, okay, so that's a good place to start, but then let's look at the zoning bylaw. And there are various options. And I said, you could, if you wanted to, get a development permit for 10 townhouses on that corner lot. That's a development option. No, we're not interested in that. Okay, well, you could subdivide, and then you could go with 4 dwelling units per building on each lot. No, we're not necessarily interested in that. I think what we want to do is build a single-family house, 3 bedrooms, with a 2-bedroom secondary suite. So that's kind of their intention. Now, whether you want to lock them into that, that's sort of up to you. But from my perspective, I think you should go with staff option 1 and then go with that. And then, like, you know, if this house might not be built for another 10 years, you know, like there's no, so, and in 10 years, the market could be a whole lot different, and maybe you don't want to limit that new house to 2 units, you know. Just saying, you know.
Although it is interesting that you would suggest that, because that might be something that council might consider, as to go into an agreement to have only single-family dwelling with another unit in that second lot. So
at this point, I think in the reference there was just in the staff report, there's option 1, which is the piece, and there's an option 2 to give some of that clear direction. If you want to limit the density, then that could be directed with that.
So then I guess my next question would be, and from what I heard you say, and perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have an anticipated timeline for the development of Lot 2, is that correct?
So I'm just going to ask that all questions be directed through me to the applicant. Go ahead.
So through you, Your Worship, I can't tell you when the owners are going to build a second house on that lot. You know, there's no, maybe I'll just refer to my letter, which is on page, it's an appendix, but
It's
we
page
say in
13
our,
of 16 in our report.
yes, we say, we propose to rezone to R5 residential use to permit a new lot. Proposed lot 1 is 767 square meters, fronts onto Lansdowne Road, and retains the existing single 1-unit dwelling. Proposed lot 2 is 558 square meters and fronts onto West Down Road. We have no intention of building on the new lot at this time. We will apply for a subdivision and development variance when the zoning amendment is approved. Once the new lot is registered, we may apply for a development permit to construct a new 2-story and 3-bedroom single detached house with a 2-bedroom secondary suite in accordance with the R5 regulations. Or we may sell the lot and another party will apply for a development permit to build whatever is permitted in the R5 zone. So I want council to really understand, the owners are not committing to build a house on this new lot yet. Okay, that's a maybe. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for that, Mr. Kalenda. Anything else, Councillor? Wait, no. Other questions for the applicant or the staff? Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Thank you. I have a question for staff, and it actually isn't about this lot, it's about the other one you were referring to, because I just want to understand the status of its kind of twin at the other end of the block, which is 2199 Lansdowne. And if you could just clarify what that lot was rezoned under an old regulatory regime, and I'd just like to understand what its status is now, and if you could do kind of a comparison from a land use regulatory perspective between what we now have at 2199 and what is being asked for here. I know there it came in with a development permit application, that's not the case, but just in terms of what would be permitted on those two sites.
Yeah, so in 2023, I think it was, when council rezoned the 2199 Lansdowne Road from the R4 to essentially a new duplex zone, because the applicants wanted to build a duplex and there was no zone that at that time allowed a duplex to be built in Oak Bay. And so we essentially created a new RD1 zone, which was at that time a duplex zone, a very short-lived zone, because then in June of 2024, the SMU regulations came into effect and the district updated its zoning bylaw, and that was one of the zones that we essentially incorporated into the R5 and R4 zone, or into the R5 zone, I guess. And so that lot was then rezoned from RD1 to R5. That application is at the subdivision stage, where we've issued a preliminary layout consideration letter to the applicant to subdivide that lot into two lots. Each of those lots could accommodate up to 4 units, but my understanding is still that they intend to build a duplex with secondary suites on the lot front in Lansdowne Road, and a lot on Henderson Road, a new single-family dwelling on the Henderson Road lot.
Thank you. And just to clarify, so when, on June 30th, 2025, when the...
Yes, and just to clarify, there is also development permits in place for those two lots, essentially.
Yeah, thank you. So that when the zoning, when the SMU bylaw was adopted on June 30th, 2025, that zoning changed automatically. The applicant didn't have to do anything, and the permissions they'd already obtained with respect to the development permit characteristics for the duplex with the suites and the house, they retained that, and they didn't lose the zoning. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Other questions to staff or the applicant? I don't see any. So I'm going to seek direction. I think we have one of two options to move forward here. And I do want to get a motion on the floor so we can have a bit of a debate, because we are out of time and we're into the 7 o'clock meeting start time. So I'll turn to members. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, Mayor, I will move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4938, 2025 be read a first and second time.
So this is, you're doing, is this, sure. For my clarification, is this option 1 or option 2 that you're moving?
Option 1.
Okay. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Patterson?
Just to say that I am in support of it. We did see this at the APC. The committee also supported it. There was, of course, discussion at that committee about it would be nicer to have everything in front of us and know exactly what was going to happen on the second lot at this point in time. But nevertheless, after all the discussion, they came to the decision that that this was something that could be proceeded with, and recognized that the lot is a considerable size and this allowed a good opportunity for future development in the area. I support the recommendation that the committee came up with because it mirrors my own thoughts.
Thank you. Councillor Watson and Green.
Yes, I'll just speak to this. I will actually vote to support this at the moment. I think, but I do want to make the comment that it just underlines for me the real need for us to be able to move forward with the next phase of work on our OCP to look at corner lots, because both this lot and the one at the other end of the block are very special opportunities in Oak Bay because they're double fronted and they provide access. And there may be some real wonderful alternative development opportunities here that we're going to lose by approving this now. It is certainly the applicant, the owner's right to come forward and ask for this, and that's the framework we have at the moment. We don't have another place really to put this and decide on it. But I just think that going forward, it would be really great to have some alternative ways to be able to address development on these kinds of corner lots, so that we really gain for the community their full potential.
Thank you. I have Councillor Braithwaite and Green.
Thank you, Mayor.
Smart.
So at this point, I'm not really prepared to support the application at this time because of the scale of the variance, the lack of design clarity, the open-ended future density, and the lack of upfront CAC certainty, which introduces too much uncertainty for the residents and I think for council. It may become supportable with additional information or conditions, but at present it feels just a little bit premature for me, so I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Green and then Smart.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to the applicant. And thanks to my colleagues for their comments. I don't disagree in principle with corner lot subdivision and corner lot development. In fact, I voted for the last duplex built in Oak Bay some years ago. And I think duplexes provide a tremendous opportunity for densification that is less intrusive and invasive. But my concern about this proposal is the total lack of clarity and the complete sort of, this may or may not happen. I believe those were the comments of the applicant. And I think I would like a little more certainty on behalf of the community and that neighborhood before I rush to approve an application. I would like, as Councillor Patterson pointed out, I would like to see something before me. I think it's important to be able to visualize what is possible on a lot like that, or on two lots if they're subdivided. So unfortunately, I cannot support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I have Councillor Smart next.
Thank you. I'm just speaking in favor of the motion on the table. I too felt the uncertainty of the situation and wish there was more information in front of us. However, in the end, I do think that there are opportunities in this corner lot, and I would just echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed around the table as far as I wouldn't want this to prevent the owner and this applicant coming back with a more innovative project in the future, but I'm very well aware that this particular owner has particular needs, and I don't think this is an unreasonable request. So I will be supporting it.
Let's see other speakers. I'm going to speak very briefly. So, Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just to, I appreciate Councillor Green's comments. I guess looking at it from both aspects, it can be difficult going into a design if you don't have the certainty that the subdivision will occur with the variance that is required here. And so we have seen many applications that come to council where there are renderings put forward with no real intent, and then when they don't turn out to be constructed that way, there can be, it's raising expectations that might not be met. So I do appreciate the comments, and I certainly heard them from the APC, but I certainly also understand the applicant's desire to have confirmation of approval of the subdivision so that then they can weigh appropriately what course of action they may wish to take, and if not, then it may provide an opportunity for housing for someone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers, I'm just going to speak to this. So I'm going to support this first and second reading. I do believe that the zoning amendment bylaw is appropriate. That being said, I won't be supporting third reading. I think option 2, which had first and second reading, and then giving direction to limit the density to no more than 2 dwelling units per lot, is more in alignment with what the applicant has stated they're going to do, and more in alignment with, given the lack of certainty, is the appropriate course of action. I think we are going to be, we often have these questions of subdividing larger lots, which requires a rezoning. It does in effect change from what is currently a single family to a 4 to an 8 unit. And again, I think the point being made by many around this table is that these corner lots actually probably can carry 8 units if done thoughtfully and effectively and cohesively. But what's being asked for here is a subdivision and a rezoning. And I think in that scenario, we're essentially treating this as more single-family home scale and massing. And so I can't support that without design. And so I'll support the first and second reading, but I'm not going to support third. If third fails, then I would suggest we would then take a direction to give amendment at second reading to consider that. I appreciate that maybe a majority here who feel that the allowing it without that restriction is the appropriate course of action. So that's where I'm sitting. So I'm going to support this motion, but I will not be supporting third reading. If that's clear. Okay, any other discussion on first and second reading? I don't see any, so all those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Braithwaite and Green opposed. I get someone to read third reading for consideration. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will read that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4938, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved and seconded. I've already explained my rationale for not voting in support of third reading. And we don't usually debate on third reading, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Not seeing any other hands. I'm going to call the questions for all those in favor of third reading and those opposed. I have Green, Braithwaite, and myself opposed. That does carry. And sorry, I'm going to go back to my. And then the balance of this is that council authorized the mayor and corporate officer and register a covenant under those pieces. So moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Don't see any discussion on that portion. So all those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Braithwaite and Green opposed. That carries. I think that covers us. Oh, make sure I've got all my. I think that was incorporated within that one motion, so we're good for all of the pieces. I think that concludes that item on the agenda. I just have a motion arising that I'd like to just do here, which is a very simple one, which is just that staff be requested to bring a report back in January on the status of the infill housing program. And if there's a seconder, I'll just give it a thank you. Just very briefly, I think we're seeing more of these coming forward, and I know we've had a number of applications. Some are nearing completion. We've got a better sense of how things are going and what kind of applications were coming. I understand we're also going to be getting a fairly fulsome report in terms of some of the priorities as how we're going to manage the multiple programs this coming year, and I think it would be a timely thing for us to look at how things are working and where things are at, and if we're going to consider continuing or shifting or amending any of those zoning. That seems like a reasonable time for us to at least get some information back and guide some decision making. So that's the rationale. It's just, and the language here is very broad, so that leaves it to staff to bring back what they think is appropriate. But I think it will give us a chance to have that conversation. Any questions on that motion arising? Not seeing any. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. That concludes this portion of the meeting. So I need an adjournment for this meeting, and we'll call to order. Moved and seconded.